Union busting!
What's disgusting?
Union busting!
Unions. They're everywhere. Whether you're ordering a package online, grabbing a drink at your local coffee shop, or taking a university class from an adjunct professor, it seems like there's a union everywhere you look.
There certainly has been a surge and just a general awareness of unionization, union elections, strikes, picketing. The National Labor Relations Board put out some data recently where election petitions in elections are generally up over 50% year over year.
Worker organizing efforts are up, but what is it about this year that's so special? This is the Starbucks Reserve Roastery, the company's flagship store in New York City. Workers here were on strike for over a month.
The weekend of October 22nd and 23rd, bed bugs were spotted, and many partners didn't want to deal with that. They dealt with what is bed bugs, and thus began over a month-long strike.
This was the first Starbucks location to unionize in the city this past April.
Everything we're fighting for now has been issues back then, and more.
In the last 12 months, over 250 stores have unionized nationwide. Workers say they've been overworked, underpaid, and subjected to various health concerns because of COVID-19.
I think between the pandemic and everything also building up, in terms of precautions, there were some implemented, but not quite a lot, and they still overworked everyone during it.
I think that it has a lot to do with the pandemic. I think that the pandemic affected so many people on such a scale that really had people, employees especially, just questioning work in general.
And the pandemic seems like a good reason why. The timeline makes sense. Once workers decide to form a union, it usually takes them several months to gather enough support to file for a union election. The voting process takes time, and once the results are in, they can be disputed for months.
The deck legally is more often than not stacked on the side of management. Management can delay, and can, in effect, strip workers of the actual rights that they have to unionization.
And the company doesn't have to take kindly. Starbucks workers say they've faced corporate union-busting efforts across stores.
Of course, there were tons of campaigns, lots of union busting from corporate, and it went as far as corporate were setting up meetings to tell us don't vote for the union.
But the pandemic isn't the only thing driving unionizations this year.
Labor law depends on who's in the White House. In Republican administrations, they have a tendency to be anti-union, and in Democratic administrations, they have a tendency to be pro-union. So one thing that is going on is that this current resurgence is happening with Biden in the White House.
Biden is a self-proclaimed pro-labor president, though he recently made a politically questionable move by asking Congress to override a freight rail union's bargaining demands. Regardless, the National Labor Relations Board has largely been supportive of unionization efforts during his time in office.
The other thing that has a strong effect on that, and that's what's going on right now, is whether or not you have an unbelievably tight labor market. If a worker gets fired from a Starbucks, he or she very well may be able to turn around and get a job at another coffee shop down the block. The current labor market is actually fueling all of this unionization very heavily because of the fact that employers have a hard time finding replacements for the people who are attempting to unionize.
A pandemic-led renewal of workers' rights, a tight labor market, and a Democratic administration. There are a lot of factors at play here. So what can we expect going forward?
I don't want to make too many predictions, but I think the surge in unionization may be cresting, the wave might be cresting.
The success of the surge is going to have an effect on its continuation. That is that, success begets more success. If people continue to catch that wave of enthusiasm, that wave of being part of something larger than yourself, then I think that the surge can continue. But it's got to be matched by victories on the ground.
Reporting from New York, I'm Jules Roscoe.